Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this latest Talking Points Chats. I'm David Danto, and I'm here with my partner, Dave Michels. And Dave, where are you? You got a gorgeous beach behind you, and you look like garbage. What's going on?
Yeah, it's really overcast out here today. No, you know I'm not on the beach. You probably even recognize the darn background. No, I am natural habitat. I'm in an airport lounge between flights, and today I'm in Frankfurt, heading over to Croatia, and they have these wonderful phone booths so that I could talk freely. But they don't. They thought it through for phones. They didn't quite think it through for video. This is terrible lighting, no power, all that nonsense. But that's not the story here. One of us is always going somewhere. You're back at HQ. One of us is always going somewhere. You just got back from Las Vegas, and I want to hear all about InfoComm. And I think you got a lot of stuff going on in your mind because I know, in fact, I know you have a lot of stuff going through your head because I saw a rough draft 50-page report you're putting together.
Yes, it is 50 pages. I got it down to 38 pages, and we're at the point now where I have to decide if I really want to include all of that or if I want to make it shorter. And I think the bottom line is for subscribers, there's gonna be an executive version, a very short couple of pages, but I'm gonna leave the 30 something page version there in case anybody wants to do a deep dive. Still working through that, but there's a lot of content and a lot of information at that show.
So we're not going to do all 38 pages here, obviously, but I want to hear a little more about InfoComm. But we got to start off with some basic stuff here. What is InfoComm?
Okay, so InfoComm is a trade show that historically was about AV and presentation technology. And over the years, in fact, I'm personally responsible through the IMCCA of bringing unified communication into that show. When we first started having video conferencing and multimedia capabilities, there have been IT services. It became a display show. It's become everything around communication for the enterprise and for public display, for theme parks, for auditoriums, for theaters. So there's a lot of that in there. It happens once a year. Lately it alternates, but lately the last 20 or 30 years, it alternates between Las Vegas and Orlando. And everybody has their preference, but it goes back and forth for a number of legitimate reasons. There are companies that are not allowed to travel to and expense Las Vegas. There are companies that won't go East Coast. There are companies that won't go West Coast. So back and forth is the strategy. This was a Las Vegas year. And you would understand, from our world, Cisco was there, Microsoft was there, Neat was there, big companies, small companies, new companies that we started to cover. You also have the traditional broadcast companies like Sony and Panasonic. Display companies are there. Runs the gamut. It takes up, if you're familiar with Las Vegas this year, it took up all of the Central Hall and most of the North Hall.
Wow. I've been to many InfoComms. I've probably been to more than you. I think I've been to at least 5 or 6 of them. I think the last several I've been at are in Orlando. I think I haven't been to the Vegas one for a long time. How many have you been at?
Well, I was thinking about it the other day because I don't have an exact number, but my first one was in the late 1980s, so 1988 or 89, which puts me at about, I might have missed one or two here or there, but puts me at about 40 years. So you can call me a
So
lifer.
you've seen a lot of big introductions in InfoComm, like when they brought electricity into the meeting rooms and stuff like that.
Not
Now,
electricity, but it used to be the big thing at Infocom used to be an independently run what they called a projector shootout, where every manufacturer would have their projector next to each other running the same content, and people could walk by and point at what the differences were. And then one of the manufacturers, I forget which one specifically, so forgive me, one of them said, I don't want to show my projector against my competitors' projectors. And that was the end of the projector shootout. And frankly, it's mostly the end of projectors. There are a few, but it's not really a projector show anymore. This year, there was a lot of displays and other ways of looking at it. So, yeah, I've seen that. And the other thing that's important that I want to point out, and again, this is not bragging, I attended InfoComm as an end user. I attended InfoComm as a consultant. I attended InfoComm as a manufacturer that was displaying products. And I've now attended InfoComm as an analyst. And I've been writing about it almost since that started. So that's the point that I have all of those capabilities, all of those ideas from all those different perspectives that go into my thinking about the show.
well, let's get into some of the stuff that was there. I don't think it takes anyone even going to the event should know that probably interoperability came up. It's like one of those things that never gets old. It's always a great topic for a conference like that. So, what were the themes on interoperability this year?
Well, the joke I've made is, in 50 years, we'll have robot doctors and robot cars and automation will be doing everything. We'll still be arguing about interoperability. We have been at this show for decades and we still will be. But there was a difference this year. We had gotten really close with interoperability around SIP and H323. And that's when the platform wars came out and we all moved over to meeting in the cloud on Microsoft, Skype for Business at the time, and WebEx and Google Meet and the rest of them. um, there was a strong feeling specifically put forward by Microsoft, and Ilya Bookstein did the keynote there, and he and other people from Microsoft specifically said, look, we will not allow app switching. We will not allow you to sit down in a room and switch between things. And the old expression going back for decades, and I apologize, Ilya, because this is no insult to you, the old expression going back is the people who say it can't be done should never get in the way of the people actually doing it. We saw two companies this year at the show, Mago and Airtame combined with Jabra, showing pure native app switching, that the kind of which that Microsoft said couldn't work. And I'm going to clarify that in a minute. But you literally would see a screen, and on the screen there would be your Zoom meeting, and then your Teams meeting, and then your WebEx meeting, and then your next team meeting, and then your Zoom meeting, and you would press one button, and it would start the meeting. And in at least the case of the new Jabra U30, it would be running the meeting on the codec inside the bar. The only thing you were doing outside was the control. Now, what Microsoft will come back and say is whose calendar is in charge if we're calendaring that on 4 different platforms. And they'll also say, well, if Microsoft is not in front with the new MDEP platform, how can we say that that's a secure system? And those are all legitimate concerns. But the point is, we shouldn't get in the way of people that are actually making it work the way people want it to work. So I think interoperability came to a head. We all agreed, I think, including Ilya, when I had a private conversation with him, and that direct guest join has made nobody happy, and it needs changes and it needs something to go on. So I think this year, interoperability, the conversation came to a head. You could add to that, that Cisco and Zoom had a deal where, Cisco was always going to be native meetings on Zoom, but now Cisco does native Zoom rooms.
Yeah.
So stick a button on the Cisco endpoints and boom, all of a sudden it's a Zoom room. We're getting close to having these native systems and just argue about features and technology, which I think is where the industry should be. Microsoft's not going to lose any customers to Microsoft Teams because the endpoints they're selling can make it on use other platforms. So again, I think it came to a head. Mm-hmm. And I also want to mention what ClickShare did, the Barco folks, where they now have a system that is native Teams certified on MDEP, runs Teams, but if for some reason you need to run Zoom or you need to run WebEx, or the better point, you need to run a platform that hasn't been invented yet, you plug their button in, press a button, and it automatically switches to that mode. You unplug the button and it switches back to Teams. So again, I think we're coming to a head with some of this stuff. Unless somebody else drops a bomb that we're not seeing, we're close.
So I just want to clarify for our viewers, you're using the term app switching, but I think you're referring to really the meeting app switching between different platforms, because Microsoft loves app switching. I think Microsoft 365 has something like 47 apps now. They love it when you switch apps, and so you're specifically talking about meeting room apps. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm talking about collaboration, video conference, meeting rooms functioning like your mobile phone already does. You want to do a Teams call, press Teams. You want to do a Zoom call, press Zoom. It all just kind of works.
So interoperability is like the standard theme. It's going to be at every InfoComm in the past and future. But I bet in this InfoComm, there was probably a lot of AI. Would that be a fair guess?
Oh, I've got a couple of comments on that. Yes, everybody was talking about AI, but not in-your-face AI. It wasn't like saying our AI is pink and come see our AI, and that's the way it was the last couple of years. What people were talking about now was more outcomes, was more that I mean, Microsoft, I'll pull Ilya out again. He showed the facilitator agent working with direct guest join, where all he did was have to, say, agent, start a Zoom call. and it did it automatically. So the point was not the AI, the point was the ability for it to work on that outcome. And you started to see that across the board in most of the vendors. So I think, at least from the AV space, we've kind of calmed down on this AV stuff. The part of it that scares me, though, and I know you and I have had this debate, we in our industry, the tech heads, the nerds, we've got an enormous blind spot around how the people who don't think AI is a good thing, don't think that data centers being built are a good thing, don't think that being rammed down people's throat is a good thing. And the counter argument to that is from a lot of people saying that, well, there's been change before, the Industrial Revolution and, the start of, cars and all the rest of it. And, all that's true, but it's never moved this fast. And the speed at which AI is coming at us is forcing companies to release things that are not ready yet. It's coming, the change is happening too fast. And even if you're somebody like a Zoom, who just made the first change in a really long time, kind of downplaying AI Companion and coming up with their new Zoom Mate, they got criticism for how come you're making so many changes. And the reality is they're not. The reality is that's the latest change from one company in a string of changes from dozens of companies. And it's happening too fast, and people just can't handle the pace. And most of the speed is happening for fear of being left behind. So I think it's a dangerous situation that's going to have some bad outcomes.
Well, this is definitely true, not just in AV and video, but across all sectors really. And I think there is some truth to that fear of getting left behind, because things are moving so fast and you can't get left behind. It's changing everything. But what really surprised me in what I saw that you wrote up was I was not expecting MCP to make an appearance at InfoComm. Explain to me how MCP fits into the video story.
Yeah, well, just very lightly, because it was just the early stages of it. You have a company which actually, I've covered and spoken about, and I think is doing great, NetSpeak, which has the ability of taking, an AI. It's not a large language model, it's not a small language model, but an AI to automatically connect to your systems, video rooms, other displays, and diagnose problems and fix them without human intervention. And some of the other companies that see that, look, hey, that's the trend. So I saw some demonstrations from Crestron with an MCP server. Neat was talking about their MCP server. The idea is exposing more than just APIs, so that the ability for cloud and other outside management to come in and make changes is something that we're going to start to see more of across the board. And the only thing that I would caution for buyers is that there are companies that are showing things working, and there are companies that don't have anything working, talking about cloud associations and cloud groups. So you just want to filter. If you got a product or a solution that works, you show the solution. If you don't have a solution that works, you talk about organizing the industry. That's how you can kind of tell the difference between what's real and what's vaporware, or I guess fogware in cloud, something like that.
Let's get to the keynotes. You've mentioned the Microsoft keynote a few times. I think the thing that really stood out to me, I watched these keynotes, is that they were an hour long. Holy cow! Those are long keynotes. Now, admittedly, Enterprise Connect usually has 30-minute keynotes, and they always feel a little short. But an hour long felt at least double. I mean, so tell me about the keynotes.
All right. So InfoComm never really had keynotes from thought leaders during the show. That was a new thing this year. And they would have maybe an industry leader, but typically a panel. They do it, in an evening or something like that. You'd have an astronaut or a magician or something. It was never really a thing. If I closed my eyes and opened them and looked at Ilya presenting or Espen Loberg presenting from Cisco, the two keynotes that they had, I would think I was at an Enterprise Connect 2 years ago, which is interesting because neither one of those firms did Enterprise Connect keynotes this year. So it was that kind of large room, large stage. Not quite as big as the stage that Enterprise Connect had, but big, and it took place during the show. So This is a new thing. And in addition to which, I'll have a lot more comments about this in my formal report for our subscribers. But the number of manufacturers came up to me and said, well, why just them? Why not us? Why do they
Yeah.
get this big stage? So, but anyway, from a theme standpoint, Ilya gave a great presentation. Again, I told you he showed off Facilitator AI. He actually spent quite a bit of time, more than I would have expected, on phones. And I heard back from integrators that they really appreciated that because they think phones are a place where AI can sell and do things. He stressed the idea of voice and video enrollment, which I think is a very important thing for them so that they can get this
They
identification.
simplified that. They made
Yeah,
that a lot easier now.
right.
Express enrollment.
And
Yeah.
then the whole idea that, and again, this is stuff that was parallel between Cisco and Microsoft, this human plus agent. They're not sitting out there that we invoke to get a transcript later. They're working with us during the meeting. So again, it was the more positive side of AI, talking through outcomes. And he called the whole thing work IQ and intelligent workflows. And it was a great presentation. I'm not sure if it's still available online. It was available online live, but I'm sure at some point Avixa will have it out, and it's certainly worth watching. And then the next day, as I said, Espen from Cisco went through it. The difference between Ilya and Espen is Ilya was taking it from the people side. And Espen was really taking it from the connectivity side. Espen had 5 or 6 walk-ons, including Ilya at the end, by the way, that was, I'll demonstrate this product for you and I'll show you how it works. He even at one point showed that when he walked up to a room, the air conditioner automatically turned on. So they were more talking about, AI-driven operational management, how security is embedded, not bolted on, the Cisco themes that you've seen before. But it was amazing to attend those keynotes, and really that audience doesn't typically see those because they're not all at Enterprise Connect. So it was a very big deal
Well,
for them, very new.
that's a really interesting point. The Enterprise Connect obviously has keynotes down, and one thing they do is they have the expo hall closed during the keynotes. And so it sounds like InfoComm didn't do that, which is kind of surprising. Um, and as far as more vendors go, I guess that's why Enterprise Connect does 30-minute keynotes, so they can get more keynotes up there. But this sounds really interesting. I think it's really fascinating that, and I assume Ilya was the only one that did this, brought in telephony, because it seems that there was a lot of frustration with Enterprise Connect this past year. And I'm noticing that InfoComm seemed to be, really strong, had a lot of senior executives there, a lot of stuff going on. And then also CCW, the contact center show, is really strong this year. People are saying one of the best shows ever. So it seems like these two shows are, enjoying Enterprise Connect kind of having a smaller event this year.
Yeah, no, I would say that that's fair, but you also have to recognize that Ilya is now on the board at Avixa that puts on InfoComm. So part of it was choice. He chose to do this, which is he's entitled to choose. And I think it was a good event. It was a different audience. A lot of people there were really interested and learned about it. It wasn't so much the IT crowd, but honestly, you don't have to convince an IT crowd to use Microsoft. This is more, the Teams premium experiences, which, as you pointed out multiple times correctly, where else was that talked about? It's kind of been pushed off of the stage by Copilot, by what MDEP is doing. MDEP wasn't in his keynote. The new thing they announced for MDEP Solara, which is going to be static devices that are cloud-based I/O devices based on MDEP, wasn't in his keynote. Part of most of his purview is Teams premium experiences, which is why this is the right audience for him. So I have to rate the keynote experience as terrific, other than the fact that this is only a 3-day show, and by having people go there, it was, they did put the keynote stage in rooms right above the exhibit hall. The rest of the education, you had to schlep 20 minutes to the West Hall, which was ridiculous. People, you can't
Oh, that's
break away.
Vegas. That's Vegas. At least you didn't have to take a taxi. Look
Well,
at the
they
bright
have
side.
they have the Teslas that run in a loop, but even if you go to the Tesla and take the loop to the West Hall, that's still 20-25 minutes. That's just unworkable, especially when they have the South Hall right next to it. I mean, it was just
Again, that's just Vegas. I got to take a taxi just to get to the Uber part of, or either at the airport or at the hotel. I mean, it's just Vegas. You got to schlep. All right, I got a flight to catch here, so let's wrap up with a few things here. Overall reflections of the evolution of InfoComm. What are your thoughts?
Like I said, after seeing this from a lot of different perspectives, I think the show is healthy, which is a good thing to see. It is. They were boasting about how there were more end users here than last year, but I'm always a skeptic and a critic. There were more end users primarily because there were less exhibitors. The show was smaller, and what I heard from exhibitors, which I didn't know because I wasn't an exhibitor for the last few years, was that this show is dropping in prominence. It's at least 4 times more expensive than exhibiting at ISE, which has become a more popular show that we went to in Barcelona the last couple of years. So InfoComm's going to have to kind of get some kind of straightening out going on there, giving other people the opportunity to present, bringing back maybe Super Tuesdays, so it's not all the presentations need to take place, at a keynote during the show, and adjusting the costs, because 4 times more expensive than what you and I experienced at ISE in Barcelona is ridiculous. It's not worth that, and that's what everybody was telling me. So that's generally some of the things, and there's some other changes that are needed, which hopefully will happen because of the transition that they're going through.
Well, okay, so speaking of transition, so I saw some drama on social following the event from afar. What's going on with the CEO thing? What's that all about?
Well, this is the last InfoComm under the CEO that's the person that's been the CEO for the last few years, David Labuskes, nice gentleman. I have some very strong opinions about them, and I'm going to share those in my report for our subscribers. I don't really want to
Yeah, I've never
much.
heard you say "nice gentleman" before, but okay, we'll look forward to that report. There was also some drama around the Elements video bar from Shure. Is that right?
Yeah, again, I'm going to put a lot of the details into the report, but if you are the king of audio and you have a swagger and you have some bravado, and then you come up with a vacuum cleaner product, many companies will, I guess, think that they deserve that swagger in the new product. And in case with the guys from Shure, they really don't. So far, they've announced it at 2 different shows. They haven't put it in anybody's hands, not mine, not any other analyst, not any, nobody's actually had it independently. And when I had an appointment to go look at it and actually kind of, get one of their engineers reached out to me and said, come take a look at it. I was intercepted at the front of the booth by their comms guy saying, we don't know when it'll be out, sometime this year. So, I don't. It's a big red flag. I wish them well. I hope it's well, but they've got undeserved swagger around a product that nobody's touched, and it's like I said, it scares the heck out of me.
Sounds like you got a better chance of winning 3-card money in New Orleans.
Somebody
Okay.
at the Westgate, which was the base hotel, hit a $10 million jackpot, and I've been trying desperately to find out if it was one of the people attending InfoComm, and I can't get that answer because I guess if it was a smart person, they're going to lawyer up before they announce anything. But $10 million, that's a big win.
And if it was somebody from InfoComm, it'll be the last time they were there, probably. So, you've mentioned this report a few times. How do people get this full report?
Well, you need to go to TalkingPointz.com, points with a Z, and you need to subscribe to the insider reports. We have individual subscriptions, we have company subscriptions, we have a lot of great subscribers. We do monthly reports, as you know, we've been working on it. And this is one example of one of the dozen or so research reports we sent out during the year, which offers very deep dives on topics and events. And it'll be out to subscribers probably within the next week.
You got that almost right, but remember, we're a global firm, and you have to say "Talking Points" with a Z sometimes. Just for the Australians.
Good point. I have to go back through the report and change PTZ to PTZ everywhere. That's a good point.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, David, for the update. Look forward to the full report, and thank you, everybody, for watching.